It's Travel Michigan. I'm Dave Lorenz, along with George Zimmerman, my boss, by the way, so say good things about me. And
like it's going to help.
Like it's going to make any difference.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, George, where are we headed to next?
Well, we're heading up to Mackinac Island, and we're going to talk with Becki Barnwell, the food and beverage director at the Hotel Iroquois. But we're not going to talk about food and beverage at the Hotel Iroquois, or we might a little bit. But mostly we're going to talk about something she has some personal experience with, and that is getting married on Mackinac Island.
Yeah.
So, Becki, let's just talk about that. You, in fact, were married on Mackinac.
Yes, I was.
And it is a very popular wedding and honeymoon destination. And why is that? What makes it special to have weddings there?
Well, I think when you come over to Mackinac, you have an opportunity to get out of what is maybe considered the norm. You have a unique setting here where you have the Great Lakes as your backdrop. Without having any cars here and the horse-drawn element to our community, you always have your bride and groom are taken to the church or to the reception via horse and carriage, which is always a wonderful photo opportunity.
Right, and yeah, some places do that. In a city where they also have, but obviously on Mackinac it is the norm to do that, and the way to travel. But you're right, the scenery and the backdrop would be spectacular there. And so how many are there? A lot of weddings up there each year? Is it growing?
There are a lot of weddings up here.
Okay.
I think that our Saturdays, sometimes they can have 12, 15 weddings or more in different, not all the same location, of course, but there are several beautiful venues on the island. The Grand Hotel, Mission Point, Stonecliff. Those are all the larger ones. And then there are a lot of smaller. The state park has a beautiful little gazebo for weddings. There are little places that you can just step off the carriage and have a small ceremony with a small group of people anywhere on the island. So, you can find a wedding location for an elopement or a very large wedding. And Mackinac Island has something for everybody. There's several really good wedding planners on the island that have made a business of, taking care of all the details that come with this unique setting.
Well, and so talk about some of the things you've been there on the island for a number of years. What have you seen that you particularly liked as far as what people have done around weddings, receptions, et cetera?
Well, the wedding receptions at the Iroquois, we've had everything from 2 people, and they don't even have any witnesses that they know. We've just had somebody from the hotel stand up for them, which is the small scale, up to weddings for, up at the Grand and Stonecliff and Mission Point, where they can handle larger groups. They've had weddings for 200 or 300 people. And they're very lavish affairs, or they can have very simple weddings right on the porch or in the garden areas. At the Iroquois, our wedding site is right down on the waterfront, on the water's edge, so the backdrop that you have is the harbor of Mackinac Island.
Well, and you have kind of like an open park area next door, don't you?
That's actually Wyndemere Park, and that's owned by the Wyndemere Hotel.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And Margaret Dowd, who's also the mayor here on the island, is very generous with the use of that space as far as people getting married out there. And they usually are staying at the Wyndemere and then have a wedding out there. Sometimes they have their dinner at the Iroquois, which is right next door, or they might be going up to one of the other restaurants on Mackinac Island for their wedding dinner.
Well, it seems like, too, the whole destination wedding thing, the nice thing about this, certainly for people from Michigan, the Midwest, is that it's drivable, and so your guests can just drive in and then take the ferry over, obviously. So that also seems like to be a tremendous advantage for someplace that is very different than your average, city wedding.
Well, yeah, it is sort of their vacation, because they can come up here for a couple of days and experience the island and sort of chalk it off to they had to come anyhow, because they had to go to the wedding. Yeah. But they're also saying, "Oh my God, I get to go to Mackinac Island. This is great."
Yeah.
So people love to come here. I usually, when I'm talking to a newly engaged couple and their parents, and they're saying, "Well, we might have 40 people." I say, if you invite 60, you're going to have 70.
Yeah, that's right.
Because everybody accepts the invitation to come to Mackinac Island.
I bet that's true.
Yeah.
We're talking with Becki Barnwell. She is from the Hotel Iroquois on Mackinac Island and finding all about wedding opportunities up on Mackinac. And Becki, can you, I know I get a lot of these types of questions. Can you do a wedding on Mackinac Island, quote unquote, affordably, if you can do any weddings affordably?
Yes.
I think so too, and I'm kind of surprised that people think you can't. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I think that everybody has a different idea of what the marriage ceremony or reception entails, and we'll have people here that will get married with just their family, and they'll have dinner together, and then we have people that they stay on the island, because that's when the magic of Mackinac really is so much more about staying overnight. And it's so beautiful up here. And so when you have people who get married here and they're sharing that experience with their friends and family, it doesn't have to be 200 people. I mean, if you're going to have a lavish wedding, we certainly have the facilities and the planners to make all that magic happen. But if you want to do something less expensive, there are certainly opportunities where you can get married at any of the parks or state parks here and just have a simple ceremony where you and the minister are standing up and two witnesses.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned too, the some of those public spaces obviously are not going to be high cost items as far as, but yet still beautiful settings, and like Absolutely. You say, with the Straits as the background.
Right.
And now you mentioned a couple of the wedding planners. So for someone working at a hotel like yourself and the other hotels, so do you routinely refer people to these particular wedding planners since they know how to do this on the island?
I do. Yeah. I pretty much, for all the years that I've been doing this at the Iroquois, I have used Carol Herbal from For the Love of Mackinaw.
Okay.
She has been on Mackinac the longest of any of the, and consistently does a really nice job. She knows our property. She knows. I would always say about Carol that she's got the taxi driver's cell phone numbers, which is important on a rainy day.
It sure is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, so would she, as an organizer, really, if you wanted her to organize everything, including, the photography and the music and food and the whole bit,
and even some of the properties that have their own staff wedding planners, a lot of people have chosen to hire somebody from outside that property just because they have different things that they want done, or they have a particular relationship, or they like having that one-on-one time with a wedding planner.
Well, yeah, and it seems like too. Then the other advantage would be that this person obviously is going to use the entire kind of landscape of the island for the event in a way that somebody tied to a property may not. I mean,
correct.
It would just be kind of human nature. So the wedding business is booming, and this summer, how are things looking for the summer travel season?
Everybody that is on this, the hotel owners are the ones that I have the most contact with, and the restaurant owners, they have been all talking about really strong bookings for April and May, looking forward to the summer. I think our traveler has changed a lot with the internet, in that they don't necessarily, when I don't want to date myself, but when I first came to the Iroquois, people were booking in May for August. August would be booked before we even opened.
Right.
But now what happens is the traveler looks at the weather, they look at what their plans are for next weekend, and they say, hey, let's go to Mackinac.
Yeah, it's pretty typical around the state. That's exactly what we hear.
Yeah, it's more last minute, and but everybody's bookings from this year for the upcoming months were better than they were last year, which we all considered a pretty good year.
Well, that is great news.
Yeah,
hope we experience that not only on Mackinac Island, but for all throughout the state.
Absolutely.
Be a great thing. Becki, thank you so much for joining us today on the Travel Michigan radio program. And boy, if you're out there and you're considering putting your wedding plans together and doing it all on your own, now you've got some ideas and maybe putting one together up on Mackinac Island. Becki Barnwell from Hotel Iroquois. For more information, go to MackinawIsland.org and find out more about booking a wedding on Mackinac Island. Well, that's all the time we have for this week's version of Travel Michigan. Thanks to Mark Blackwell, our engineer, George Zimmerman, and Dave Lorenz, thanking you as well for joining us. Join us next week on Travel Michigan, right here where your trip begins at Michigan.org.